Let's hang out.
Let's hang out.
And let's talk about what lessons about.
Let's hang out.
And let's listen to two lesbians shout.
Let's hang out.
Let's hang out.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to Let's Hang Out, the podcast hosted by two lesbians who had totally normal female friendships before they came out. I am your host from the West Coast, Lee Holmes Foster.
And from the East Coast, I'm Ellie Brigida. To those of you who have been with us through this whole journey, thank you as always for listening. And if you're a new listener, welcome. We're excited to have you here. And here's what's happening this week.
This week in the Lesdom.
This week in the Lesdom is somewhere that we can touch base every episode about things going on in our lives, in the podcast, or just in the greater Les universe.
And the first thing that we want to talk about is our live show in Boston, June 8th at 7 p.m. at WBUR City Space. You can get your tickets at bit.ly/LesBostonLive. We are so excited. It is coming up really soon, so make sure you get your tickets.
There is no better time to hang out with us than Pride. Boston Pride. So come hang out. If you aren't in Boston and you want other opportunities to hang out, maybe not with us, but with other awesome queer people, we have a ton of our inaugural Les Hangouts happening all across the country. So on June 4th, we have two. One is in Pittsburgh. That one is a trivia night that's going to be at 5801 Video Lounge, and there will also be one in Seattle on June 4th at 3 p.m. at Wayward Coffee.
We also have our Les Hangouts in Boston on June 13th at 7 o'clock at Turtle Swamp Brewing Company. I will be there, so I would love to see some of you there. And a Les Hangouts in Duluth, Minnesota, hosted by two of our favorite patrons, the Evanses. They are going to have a cute Barbie queer picnic on July 27th. I love that so much, and I wish that I could be there.
I'm a little jealous. We also have a bunch of new designs in our store. If you haven't seen, we've been posting a bunch of them lately. We have some new Pride designs all over the place. They're amazing. You should go check them out. You can find that at bit.ly/LesShop. You do not want to miss these. They're amazing. I want to buy them all.
Yes. And in the greater Les universe, there has been some amazing gay content coming out lately. I'm just so excited. And I was so lucky to get to see Booksmart already in theaters. It's a new film directed by Olivia Wilde. There is a lesbian lead. One of the best friends is already an out lesbian, but it's a high school lesbian story. It's basically what every straight man has gotten for the past, however many years in a teenage rom-com, and we finally have one for a lesbian character, and she's wonderful and super lovable. And yeah, I really, really enjoyed it. It was amazing gay representation, and I think you should all see it. It was so funny.
We also are excited to say that season 3 of Runaways, as we talk about our awesome queer high school representation, Runaways is now officially in production on season 3, which we are very, very excited about and is very on brand for today's episode of the podcast.
That's what's happening this week. Back to you, Ellie and Lee.
Thanks, Ellie and Lee. We are so excited to bring you episode 18 of season 2. There's something a little bit queer with a very special guest. We are so excited to have Ariela Barrere here today.
Hey, Ariela. Thank you so much for hanging out with us today.
Hi, thanks for having me. I liked the little intro.
Yes. You probably know her as Gert from Runaways, and of course, we first fell in love with Ariela as Carmen from our favorite One Day at a Time.
Yeah, mine too.
There was a dance that happened that no one can see, but it was delightful.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like it was doing the One Day at a Time. Bing.
Oh, absolutely. That song is playing on an endless loop in my head. Constantly.
I wish that Carmen made more appearances in One Day at a Time.
Yeah, they had actually written full episodes for me to come back and do. I read the scripts and then it was at the exact same time as Runaways, so it never worked out. But they even at certain points had wardrobe and stuff ready for me. Isabella would send me pictures on set of my discarded wardrobe with sad emojis.
That's so sad.
It was so sad. I wanted to go back so badly.
Yeah, I feel like there also are so many fans that are big Carmen and Elena shippers.
Oh, me too. That was originally going to be a plot line, and then they decided not to, which I respect.
Yeah, I mean, but we are here to talk about the relationship between Carmen and Elena because it was obvious it was maybe going to be a plot line because they're clearly both like pre-gays. who were figuring some stuff out.
I think I told this story when we had Isabella on, but there's a lot of queer content out there these days. It's hard to keep up. I have a tiny human to take care of. I don't have that much time. And also I don't have time for like anything that's not queer these days. So I tend to watch a lot of things knowing what's coming, right? And so one day at a time, I totally started watching because you started seeing a lot of posts and a lot of news about, oh my God, the daughter comes out and it's great and she's gay and everyone has to watch it. So I started watching it. I knew Elena was going to come out. And they introduced Carmen, and I was like, oh my God, it's here, it's happening, I'm so excited. And then it was not. It was not.
A misdirect.
Right? It was like, it was a big you were a red herring.
Exactly.
Yeah, it was such a tease. And so, but I think there was obviously something about that storyline that probably resonated with a lot of people. A lot of queer people watching that happen.
It's funny, a lot of, something I hear, like, all the time is that, like, I keep getting straight roles, and then, like, my queer energy just, like, exudes, and then people assume my character is queer. And it happens with, like, every character I play, where there ends up being, like, a huge queer fan base behind the show, because there's a lot of, like, LGBT rep in the shows I do. And so it's really funny that everyone always assumes my character is also. I think that might have been me. I don't even know if the writers had originally intended for that. And then
Are you saying you make shows gayer?
Yeah.
That is like a superpower in and of itself.
I
right?
do. I will say it is weird that I have, like, the 3 shows that I am on currently are, like, 3 really cool, like, LGBT rep shows.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. Yeah.
And yet you never get to play it yourself.
And I'm never queer. Yeah.
I feel like a lot of actors have the opposite problem, though, like where they get pigeonholed into, like, that particular role. So, like, do you want to play queer?
I definitely do. I was up for something recently. I was up for 2 things recently where I would have played queer. That was most of the reason why I was excited about it. Because I will even honestly say one of the scripts was pretty bad. And I still just wanted to do it. I still just wanted to do it because I was like, finally.
Okay, I'm going to write you a one-woman show. It's just you being gay for like 4 hours.
Yeah. It's just like everything you could think you've said in your life that was like, oh, that was probably what that was. When you circle back to it, that'll be the show.
Amazing.
That's amazing.
One of these days.
Yeah, that is actually really funny.
One of these days we'll see you in a queer role. I have faith.
And also, I have faith in my head that, like, we might still get a chance to see Carmen come out. I'm not giving up.
I also have high hopes for the show still.
Yes.
I refuse to believe Carmen is not at least bi.
Yeah, well, also it's like, in 2019, like, a counterculture teenager is going to be exploring her identity. Like, let it happen. Just, it's a fluid thing.
Yes. Well, even with Gert, like, Gert says so many things that, like, queer women say. Like, so many things.
My theory about Gert is that she is someone who, had she not met Chase and fallen in love so young, would have explored her identity. So now that her and Chase are, like, kind of not a thing for a minute, like, maybe it's time. That's what I've been pitching. I've been saying it left and right until someone hears me and writes it down.
You're just showing up to set in, like, a giant rainbow onesie, just being like, nothing.
Yeah, I think the writers are a little sick of me because they'll just get pitches, like, all day, every day from me. Just like, pitch. Gert uses a butterfly knife? Every random thing I can think of.
That's so awesome. I feel like with certain shows, though, people are like, so, I don't know if that's your experience with Runaways, where it's like, well, there already are 2 gay characters, so, like, you couldn't also be gay.
Yeah, that's funny. I mean, I don't think the writers of the show are like that. I think it's just like the canon of the comics never goes there, so that's why their brain isn't really going there. But I do definitely feel like I watch so many shows where I'm like, okay, they checked off the box, watch it not really go further than that, even though in real life, like, gay people find each other. I've never in my life met a gay person who is only friends with straight people. Like, those, and then they date the only other gay people they know. Like, no.
Yeah, it never happens. It never happens.
At this point, I feel like it's so rare when I meet a truly straight person.
I love that.
Look, it's 2019. Like, who has the energy to be straight?
Because even my, like, straight friends, they, like, you know, say things about, like, you know, but I'd explore this, I'd do this. Like, it's so rare that I meet someone who is like, I 100% feel no attraction to women. Like,
so maybe this is our good segue, huh?
Yep.
Should we, like, should we dive? Like, it's like we scripted it. I couldn't have written it that well.
There it is.
Well, let's start with maybe, should we contextualize with Elena and Carmen?
Sure.
So I think Elena and Carmen, our argument in this episode is that this is actually a totally commonplace queer experience, is that there is something a little bit queer, as Lydia so aptly points out in the episode, about Elena and Carmen's friendship, right?
A little bit.
Elena hasn't actually come out yet, right?
Yeah.
Carmen is not out at all in the show.
Yeah.
Although we know.
She is straight as far as we know.
Yeah.
Straight until proven gay.
Yeah.
And they have a very, very close relationship. Is that a accurate enough way to phrase that, Ellie?
Yes.
I feel like Ellie wants to say more.
Well, I feel like I'm just going to get into a rant already. But
hey, we've made it 10 minutes in. You can rant all you want. We're fine.
I do feel like there are intimate female friendships between people who are straight, and then there are intimate female friendships between people who just don't know they're gay yet. Right? And there's a clear difference between those relationships.
Yeah.
And Carmen and Elena's feels very pre-gay is the word I'm going to use.
Yes. I mean, clearly,
I like that because it sounds so much like pre-gaming, and I feel like that's what it needs to be, like a verb. Like,
pre-gaying.
You can, like, pre-gay.
Oh, they're pre-gaying.
She's pre-gaying. Like, she's figuring it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. So, Ariela, have you ever had any pre-gay friendships?
Oh my god. That was basically all of them. I've never had, like, it's so rare that I ever had, like, a close male friend. Like, I don't know. And it manifested different for me than it did with most of my friends, though, I will say. Because I've never been a very, like, physical person. Most of my connections are very, like, verbal, like, through communication and all that stuff. So it is funny because I always had very intense friendships with one girl at a time in my life. Like, always. And
that's a giveaway.
Every single one turned out queer. Like, my middle school best friend, her and I just reunited, and, like, she's like, yeah, I'm exploring my identity, it's great, blah, blah, blah. And we're like, oh, this all made sense now. And then, like, my best friend after her now identifies as they, them. They're, like, incredibly queer. They're, like, a really cool artist. And, yeah, it's like everyone ended up queer somehow. And I realized... Also, I had a friend group in high school that we called the Gay Girl Gang, even though some people identified as non-binary, but we just called it that because everyone identified with that being the group title. And almost everyone in that group hooked up.
Nice.
Not surprising.
Like, yeah.
So, to clarify, you came out in high school?
So what happened with me was, like, I realized in 9th grade there was a lot of, like, pre-gay behavior because I was on Tumblr and I learned the language pretty quickly. Like, I remembered in 8th grade, I was talking to some girl who also turned out to be queer, and she was like, you're allowed one girl crush, like one girl celebrity crush. And I was like, oh my god, I can have a girl crush? So I was like,
Just
okay,
one
this
girl.
is my girl crush right now. And then...
Wait, who was it?
I don't know, it changed every week. I was like, okay, no, this one's the girl crush now. And I just always
But it's
had a
only
new
one.
girl. Yeah, I was only allowed one, but I just changed it a lot.
Yeah.
So that was my thing. And I remembered hers were like Keira Knightley, like Kate Winslet, but we had very different taste. Mine were different.
Mine is still Keira Knightley. My wife makes fun of me all the time for it. It's fine.
Keira Knightley? That's funny. I mean, she's like objectively very attractive.
True.
But
It's such a holdover for me from like high school. Like,
yeah.
I just had such a giant crush on like Bend It Like Beckham era Keira Knightley.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Early Pirates, Keira Knightley. Yeah.
That's so funny. Yeah, I love a boy haircut, Keira Knightley. I sent a picture. I follow a lot of like film accounts on Instagram. They posted like old pictures of Keira Knightley that looked like Bridget from Atypical. And so I sent it to her and I was like, "Is that you?" And she was like, the highest compliment.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I feel like I remember that. Like I'm like can envision what she looked like.
Yep. Boy haircut, Keira Knightley was so good. I do remember distinctly the only guys I ever liked were like extremely feminine. Like
I feel that so hard. Joseph Gordon-Levitt is my number one.
Well, my first ever celebrity crush was Ezra Miller, which like makes sense because he's like very gender fluid in his presentation, which I'm so about. I always say that when I'm talking to my friends. I'm like, yeah, the only guys I like are like non-threatening, feminine boys that I could maybe think are gay, and then the only girls I like are most of them. My standards are way less specific for girls.
Yeah, it makes sense. I get that. I feel like I have a really weird celebrity girl crush. I don't know if it's weird, but it's Minnie Driver.
That
is the most random person.
Like, so random.
That's also not your generation at all.
I know.
Why? What did you see Minnie Driver in that would have left such an impression?
I saw her in this movie called Beautiful. She plays a pageant queen who had a baby. I don't know. It's a weird movie, but she sang and her voice was gorgeous. And I was like, Minnie Driver, that's my girl.
Oh my God.
Damn, I'm really trying to remember what crushes I had. I also was never like, I feel like I was the least developed romantically out of my friends. Like, I didn't really give romance and stuff like that as much thought as everyone else did, especially in like high school. But pre-gay friendship is really interesting to me because I've only ever been in a relationship before the one I'm in now, and it was the end of high school, like senior year. It was a girl I'd been friends with for years. She suddenly was into me, and I gave her the same thing I gave everyone else of like, no, I don't do relationships, I don't want this, we don't have to do anything. And she was like, let's just do it anyways. And I was like, no, like, I don't think I'm ready. And she was like, okay, if you hate it, we can break up. And I was like, okay. And then it ended up being like a great relationship. We like stayed together up until I think like One Day at a Time came out, which I think was funny because I never got a chance to be like in an openly queer relationship. It was all like brushed under the rug by the time the show came out. And then literally I came out to the public because like I had like an old tweet that said I was gay.
Yes, I think it's like probably one of the gayest things you could ever do that like you came out because of Twitter.
Yeah, because I remember exactly when I wrote that tweet too. I was like walking out of my audition for Atypical and like I just knew I crushed it. I was like, I booked that. I know I did. So I wrote this tweet about like everything I do is to get back at the kids in middle school who called me like gay and ugly, and they were right. But yeah. I remembered very specifically the motivation behind that tweet. So it was funny that like I did end up succeeding that day, and then that tweet ended up going. Tyler Oakley reblogged it, which to me, like my generation of Tumblr, that was like you made it. I don't know if he's still.
I don't know. I was never like super into Tumblr, which I know is like a pretty lesbian thing to do, but
oh, I'm so way too old for Tumblr, but that's okay.
That makes sense.
I'm the old lady in this conversation right now.
That's okay, Lee.
I feel too old for Tumblr now too. I think I was more just, I was so in Tumblr culture and then I wasn't. Like, I forgot my password, blah, blah. And then what happened was, I booked Runaways and I realized I had an old Tumblr account where I had said some very controversial things. And the funny thing is not controversial, like, in a problematic way, like, in the opposite way. Like, I'd go on rants about, like, this studio needs to hire more people of color. And then I was like, that studio will never work with me. So I had to delete my Tumblr account. Like, I would just, like, call people out constantly. Like, I was that person. And I'd call out people by name. So I was like, that person will never work with me. That person will never work with me. So I'd forgotten my password, and I stayed up all night before the first wardrobe, like, hair and makeup test for Runaways, like, freaking out about it. Because I knew the press release was going to be that day, and if you looked up, like, Ariela Breuer Tumblr, you would find it in 2 seconds. So I stayed up all night. I thought I could handle it by myself, and then my mom came to wake me up in the morning. She was like, you haven't slept? You have your, like, press release thing today. It's, like, your first day of work. And I was like, Mom, I can't delete my Tumblr account. This help people keep ghosting me, and I don't know what to do. So she called AOL to get access into my old email, we were literally on the phone with the AOL people in the car. I couldn't drive because I was so tired. My dad drove me. I was on the phone guessing every password I could have possibly had, like guessing every security question. And literally, I think the second I pulled up to set was when I got access to my account, logged in, deleted the account. And
that is amazing.
Yeah.
Do you have one now? Do you have a new one?
I do have one now that I used for season 1 for Gert. I used it as like a journal, like to be in character, and I followed like feminist blogs. But then season 2, she was on the run, so I like stopped using it because she wasn't on Tumblr anymore. You know?
You have to stay in character. Yeah.
Yeah.
Even
I do
on
find it
Tumblr.
funny though that a lot of celebrities are afraid that their like problematic old stuff is going to come out, and I'm afraid that my like social justice warrior rants are going to come out.
The complete opposite.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that wouldn't be such a bad thing.
It wouldn't be the worst. It's more just like I would burn bridges. Yeah, it was just scary at the time. Now I'm like, now I say that stuff again because like I understand how the industry works, and I don't care about a lot of things now.
You're like above it now. It's fine.
Yeah, I like now if that had happened, I'd be like read the post. I don't care.
Yeah.
Now you've made it. So let's compare and contrast, because you were saying before we got off on a wild tangent about Tumblr.
Yes.
So you were saying that you're a less physical person, but of course, Carmen and Elena had a pretty fairly physical closeness
cuddle
on the show, which I think is what
yeah.
leads to a lot of the initial questions in both the viewers' minds and Lydia's mind.
Yeah, that's not something I relate to though. Like I get it. The like wanting to be close with someone like under the guise of like friendship, like girlfriends, gal pals.
And so I'm so curious because that must have meant, because the thing is, I feel like, so for me, like my pre-gay friendships, the one that like sticks out the most in terms of like actual pre-gay, like before I came out at all, was the girl that was like one of my best friends in high school who like I totally fell for. Yeah. And like that was what led me to realize like that I was gay. But it was like, I think such a huge part of it was that like you were cuddling and you were holding hands and like and slowly realizing like, oh, this feels very different than I think it should. And different than I think it felt for her also, right? So what is that awakening like without that? Like, is it just, it's like that emotional connection, or like what was it about those relationships that stood out as opposed to just like regular friendships?
Well, so like I had like those really close female friendships like my whole life, and that was kind of all I had. And then I remembered the one that kind of like made me realize, and it was like the same year I came out, was like 9th grade. I had like a new friend who I just like admired. Like I had never had that type of thing. Like even though I felt myself getting closer to girls than anyone else, there was like a girl that I was just kind of like obsessed with. And we were never really physical, but I remembered like we spent every day in summer together, and like we were always in her pool, and like she was super rich and she was like super hot, and she had this like boyfriend who dealed weed, and I hated him, and I hated him so much. And he'd always like come over with his like douchey friends, and his douchey friends would hit on me, and I'd just have no interest at all.
So you mostly hated him because you wanted to be him, or
I also
because
hated him because he was a bad person. But also like he'd come over to like flirt with my friend, and I'd be like, this is our time, like why are you doing this? He's annoying as hell.
I remember literally I sort of had the opposite, where like I had a boyfriend, and there was this one girl who I was like very like was my best friend, right? And I was like, I would be like, I'd rather hang out with Megan than like hang out with my boyfriend.
Was that the prom one?
Yes, and I went to prom with her too.
That sounds about right. Yeah, I remembered like my only real relationship I've been in was with that girl I mentioned, but in middle school there was like a guy that I like dated. Like, like you have your middle school boy. I think we dated like middle school, broke up over summer, got back together in high school, broke up. We're both gay now. which I think is hilarious. And he's like a producer for like Frank Ocean and Tyler the Creator. And I'm like, okay, whatever, sure, I guess we should have just stayed friends. But
Yeah.
I remembered I always resented having to hang out with him for some reason. Like, I always just really, like, I liked him a lot as a person. And then, like, whenever people would be like, are you guys kissing yet? I would just be like, ew, shut up. Like,
Yep. Sounds right.
yeah.
Yeah.
But he was a lovely person and, like, still a good person. And I'm glad he's discovering his identity and stuff like that.
Yeah, I feel we had an episode about gay magnetism, which I feel like is similar to this.
Very real. All my friends, like, I have, like, 2 friends that are straight, and only one is, like, truly straight, you know?
But so, you know what's interesting to me, though? Because I absolutely gay magnetism, and, like, so much of my life is gay magnetism. Like, actually, you were just saying you had the gay girls group.
Yeah, gay girl gang.
Yeah, gay girl gang, yeah. So my best friend in, like, middle school and high school, we used to call ourselves, like, the future lesbians of America, like, before we both came out as, like, super giant lesbians.
Yeah.
Which, like, the
Why?
lack of
I remember I was
self-awareness.
joking with my friends before we came out that we were, like, girlfriend. Like, everyone always thought I was dating my friends. Because I was way
We
more
were in
intimate with them.
GSA
Yeah.
together. We were in, like, Gay Straight Alliance. We were just, like, I think the whole thing was we were just, like, over men already. And so, we were
Doesn't
kind
take
of just
long.
like, who needs men? We're just gonna, like, form the future lesbians of America. And of course, we both ended up being, like, the biggest lesbians ever.
There you go.
That's not the point. The point is, what I think is really interesting, and because it is technically the story that is in One Day at a Time still, is that one half of that equation, I feel like, is the part that's, like, realizing through this relationship that they're coming out.
Yeah.
But the other half is straight. Right? And, like, so what's that about? Because I totally get the whole, like, oh my god, I used to have these super close, intimate, deep, meaningful relationships with, like, other people, and we're all queer now, and, like, we all sort of realize this, but, like, what is happening? Because, like, the girl that I realized this for, right, like, that pre-gay relationship that I had, we were cuddling, we were holding hands, and, like, she is straight, is straight still.
Whoa.
Like, right, exactly. So, like, what's the deal?
You know what's one thing I've noticed that might be controversial, but this is just personal experience? I feel like at the beginning, when you're, like, first discovering your relationship to girls, there's, like, a part of you that wants to take on, like, I'm speaking personally, so maybe not you guys, but, like, there's, like, a part of yourself that wants to take on, like, a more masculine role in a way. Like, there's the part of you that does feel like, I'm going to be... I remember the girl that I first realized I had these feelings for was, like, the most feminine, like, delicate flower I could have ever found, you know? Like, she was the hot girl with long hair who wore makeup and, like, bikinis when we go to the pool and stuff like that, and I'd be the one in, like, shorts. And I remembered when I first started dating my ex-girlfriend, she was, like, smaller than me, and so I always kind of felt like the protector. Like, if there was going to be a boyfriend or a girlfriend, I was, like, the boyfriend. And slowly over the course of that relationship is when I realized that was, like, all bullshit. Like, and
That there isn't actually a boyfriend when two women are dating.
Exactly.
Fun fact, world.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like, it's what I want to say, like, I'm speaking very personally because it's like there's that part of you in your head that is like, no, this is how it's supposed to be. I'll take on this role. I want to find a feminine girl. And then as you, like, actually start experiencing it, you realize, like, no, this is just what it is. And then my ex-girlfriend and I would always joke because she ended up cutting her hair and she'd wear more pants than me and I'd wear jeans, or I'd wear dresses, but I was the taller one. And, like, we'd be like, wait, which one of us? Like, what will they say?
How will anyone ever know?
How will they know?
Right.
Yeah. We were always joking, like, because I'd put my arm around her when we were walking around, but she was like, I have short hair. You can't do that to me.
It is funny, like, because are you trying to say, like, then that other person in it, like, if they end up being straight is usually because they, like, because you were, like, trying to be their boyfriend?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my god, I was so trying to be her boyfriend, though.
Yeah.
That is the most accurate thing, though. I was, like, 100% trying to be her boyfriend.
Yeah, exactly, because that's, like, the dynamic you learn.
she was like super into, and I helped like get her together with this absolute freaking loser.
That's always how it is.
Such a waste. It was terrible. And and like 100%, I was like, I could be your boyfriend. I'd be a way better boyfriend.
You can be. No.
I would have been a way better boyfriend. Let's just put it that way.
Truly.
I'm sure.
I could be a better boyfriend than most boyfriends. Just,
I mean, it's not a high bar, to be fair, but
exactly.
Like, yes. I believe it. I
will say that my boyfriend is the first, like, straight, like, truly straight guy that, like, is truly non-threatening to me, like, in a relationship kind of way. And it's so funny, like, every once in a while I'll be like, are you sure you're not, like, a little queer? Like, you've never thought about it? And he's just, like, so straight. He's so straight.
But you, like, want him to be a little queer?
I do. Like, sometimes he'll just say things that, like, feel like he read a book that's, like, how to say just the right thing right now. And I'm like, this isn't real. Like, something is wrong. Like, you're gay or something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But it's also, I do think there's something, this is, like, a total tangent, but I just think it's worth saying because I feel like it's something that I see so much. And because, like, I think we've talked about it a lot, you know, other podcasts have talked about it a lot, is that, you know, people who are, like, bisexual, pansexual, like, all sorts of stuff, like, they get so much shit when they're in relationships with dudes. But what's funny is, I feel like you never see them dating dudes who aren't, like, just the greatest guys, right? Because it's, like, no queer person has time for, like, a
we don't have
asshole.
to put up with the horrible, like, toxic masculinity bullshit, because if we encounter that, we're like, I can find a girl 10 times better, like, outside my door right now. Yeah, no,
yeah,
it's
like,
legit.
it's just so funny. Like, they always end up being, like, the best dudes. And we're like, why would we give people shit for that? Like, you're just finding all the good guys. There they are. Look.
Well, it's also funny, because it's, like, part of me felt really guilty when I was, like, first dating him, and, like, when I first posted a picture of him, even though we've been together for a minute after that, just because I was like, like, I felt like I had to, like, prove my queer identity in a way. And it was especially weird because it was, like, my whole life, even though I identified as, like, queer, I had only been with a girl. Like, that was it. So now that it's the other way, but the girl wasn't public, it feels like that weird thing of, like, do I have to prove that? And it's just a very strange thing where it's, like, my whole life, only been with a girl, never felt like I had to prove anything. First time with a guy, I'm like, oh my god.
It's also so funny because I feel like that's so, like, the complete reverse of, like, so many people's lives, right? Where it's like, you're like, I've just never been in, like, a heterosexual looking relationship.
I had it, and it was great, and I felt so healthy. And, like,
what will people think?
Yeah, no, she taught me how to communicate. She taught me how to be in a relationship. It was great. Because she had that experience where she had, like, been with guys throughout high school and then was like, I don't want this. So then I jumped into it for the first time with her, and she was just like, this is how you do everything.
I mean, especially, like, high school guys, you're just...
Yeah.
You didn't miss much. Let's put it that way.
I don't feel like I did. I never...
No.
Well, there is part of me that is, like, there's that queer thing of, like, constantly feeling a little stunted because you didn't get to live that, like, high school experience of, like, sweethearts and blah. Instead, it was, like, figuring out, like, oh, there's something wrong with me, and then being like, wait, there's not anything wrong with me. It's just I was in an environment that wasn't catering to me. And then you go through the teenage feelings as a 20-something-year-old. You're like, what's going on?
Yeah, you, like, you lose a little bit of, like, that innocence.
Yeah.
Like, you don't get that as much. But I do, we've talked about this before, too. Then you, like, pretty much go through gay puberty.
Yes, in your 20s. That's totally it. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, you both, I think, like, came out in high school. Like, I did not come out until I was in college. I, like, had the thing is, like, I had literally the same experience that you had where you were, like, one girl at a time, like, intimate relationships. I had that, but, like, super physical. Yeah. And I still was like, we're just friends. Like, everything's, like, I think me and one of my friends, like, kissed once by accident. Quote unquote.
Oh, no, I did kiss all my friends. You're right.
And I was like, oh, this was so crazy. I can't believe we did that. And I was like, I'm straight.
Or you, like, get one drink in you at a party. And,
yeah,
like,
it was actually after prom.
Yeah. Yeah. And I wasn't, like, out in high school. Like, a couple close friends of mine, I told them, like, oh, I think I might be, like, I don't know, bi or something. Like, I don't know. Just I'm figuring it out. And then it wasn't until I, like, dated the girl that I dated that I was like, okay, no, we're sure now.
Yeah.
What is it that you think was the difference? Like, what draws the distinction in your mind between regular friendships that you just had with, like, your friends versus this pre-gay, intense thing? Like, what was the line? Like, what made it different? And do you think it was something that was, like, an actual line that like, anyone else knew about, or was it just something that was happening, like, just in your brain?
Yeah, I don't know about, like, other people knew about thing, because, like, people always thought I was dating my best friends. And
well, you kind of were, apparently.
Yeah,
so.
but I think that's exactly it. Like, you are acting like you're dating just without the label. Like, the hanging out feels like a date. Like, you're with each other constantly. And I feel like that's a thing. Like, in relationships, the person should also feel like they're your best friend. But in a best friendship, they shouldn't necessarily feel like your significant other. And that might have been...
Oh my god. I feel like I need that, like, written down as a life mantra.
Get it on a mug.
Quote. That's amazing.
It's so true, though.
Yeah, but that was exactly it. Like, I realized it once I was in a relationship, and now that I'm in it again, like, oh yeah, this sort of trust and, like, constant time and affection together is, like, what a relationship is, not necessarily a
oh wait,
friendship.
this is dating.
Yeah, yes. And it's weird, because it's like, you know that feeling of, like, when you replace your best friend with your boyfriend or girlfriend, or, like, that's, like, the fear that's always, like, shown, and it is especially weird when it's, like, the friendship you're used to is a relationship.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
and also, while I was, like, in these crazy, intense friendship relationships with girls, it was, like, weird if you had, like, a crush on someone else suddenly, like, there was something in the friendship that was, like, not entirely supportive of it, ever.
Did you ever feel like you had to break up with your, like, friend? For me, I felt like it was like when I would be like so intense with one person, and then once I found like another friend that I felt more intense towards, then I would feel like I had to have this weird divide with my other friend.
Yeah.
When like we weren't dating, but it felt like I was dating this person and then I'm dating this new person and I couldn't be with the other person and the new person. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, that makes sense. I had, like, naturally intense falling outs with these people, but, like, it was never just, like, you drift apart, you know?
Yeah.
Like, there was an end to each one, and I can remember them all very distinctly, and then a new one would happen right after, and I don't ever think I broke up with someone for someone else, except maybe 9th grade. Actually, 100% 9th grade. Yeah, no, I did that.
Except maybe that
really
one
bad about
time.
You're like, actually, this one time, it was this date
Actually,
in
yeah.
the year of...
No, now that I think about it, I was trying to get the timelines right. I thought I had, like, had that falling out with that person in 8th grade, but now that I think about it, it was totally 9th grade. But yeah, it was, like, I had, like, my childhood best friend that I had forever. She's not queer now, but we did kind of, like, just drift apart when I found my, like, 6th grade best friend. She, like, was my one and only. Like, we only hung out with each other. If we hung out with other people, it was with each other, and it was weird if you didn't invite the other person, because, like, that person always had to be there. And then that's when I drifted apart with my childhood best friend to be, like, constantly with this girl. And then her and I just had a huge falling out. We got into this, like, crazy fight. And then right after that, I, like, coincidentally got really close with, like, a new girl. And then, or they identify as non-binary now, so, like, a new person. So, we got really, really close, and we were constantly, like, physical with each other. Not, like, physical. Like, I remembered we'd walk down the halls, like, holding hands, being like, oh my god, isn't that funny? And then in 9th grade was when I met the girl that I was, like, so into. And suddenly she became, like, the obsession, and I still had this, like, best friend who was very clearly getting in the way of me getting close to this girl, so I had to be like, look, like, we're not good for each other anymore. Like, I think I literally at one point was like, this is toxic, like, just because that's how intense it was, and then there was, like, the push and pull of the other person, and so we, like, broke up. Now we're chill. That was kind of me being a brat that caused that rift in that friendship. It was also, like, we had turned into very different people in high school, and it was kind of weird at this point. So then I became obsessed with this person. Then her parents, the new person, got really mad at me one day. I won't say why. I did something bad, but I did.
That's okay.
You can tell us off the air. It's fine.
I did something really bad. I could tell you if you scratch it.
Okay, we're gonna cut it, but God, it was such a juicy story.
Right? Oh my god. So crazy.
You won't believe what she told us.
we had some fun stories that I don't recommend anyone does. The world is so unsafe. Like, I'm surprised I'm alive. But, yeah, so her parents got really mad at me and, like, didn't let us hang out ever again. And I remembered I'd, like, call her and just be like, hey, like, what's up? What are you doing? Like, how's life? And I remembered when she was, like, falling into, like, a new group of friends, I'd be like, be careful, you know? Like, those people, like, you know, they're gonna turn you into, like, a party girl and, like, be this crazy person, which she did kind of end up becoming. Like, now I've looked at her Instagram recently and I'm like, oh, you're so, like, rich and straight and, like, hot. And now
You're
that's
like,
very
but still
not my
hot.
type. Yeah, she's hot. But, like, that's not, like, my type anymore, I don't think. Like, yeah, she's, like, very conventionally hot. And it's, like, that's awesome, and I'm glad she's living her best life. And I support her fully, but I don't like clubbing. I don't like drinking, all that stuff.
We
too
like
much.
to keep living our best gay lives. That's what we're here for.
Yeah, like, I'll support her doing her thing, but it's very not my thing anymore. And I remembered I was very protective over our friendship when she was, like, moving on with new people. I was like, what the fuck's happening? And then very shortly after that, I realized I was queer.
Yeah. Yeah. I do feel like there is that, like, intense attachment on both sides. Like, because I have felt that from, like, straight pre-gay people even, like, some of my friends who are straight, who, like, I was their girlfriend.
Yeah.
Right? And then, like, this actually happened to me when I came out, and then I actually found a real girlfriend.
Yeah.
And my other friend who was straight had no interest in, like, being with me romantically, was so mad that I got a girlfriend. Like, so mad. Because that meant that I wasn't, like, we were, like, every day we would hang out together. We would go to the movies together. Like, I would, like, sleep over. This was in college, so I'd, like, sleep over in her dorm room. Like, she would, like, we'd go to breakfast in the morning. Like, we were together all the time.
Yeah. And I think the thing that, like, what I kind of said earlier, but, like, really didn't articulate well was, the idea of, like, when you're in a relationship then, like, ditching them for this person. But I feel like most of the time it's, like, the straight friend who, like, doesn't fully understand what it was that was going on. And then, like, when a relationship starts, they're like, they either leave you or they're like, why are you leaving me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, and that's so okay. So I had, like, my pre-gay relationship. I want to call them, like, friend-lationships. They need, like, a name. I don't know what to call these.
I know.
My pre-gay
sounds
friend-relationship.
but
Friend-relationship.
But I had so I guess I would call it, like, my post-gay friend relationship of, like, same thing when I was in college. So my ex-girlfriend, like, we dated from high school through college, and when that relationship was kind of, like, ending, there was another girl who lived on my floor who, like, kind of awkwardly, like, landed in the middle of, like, my, like, slowly devolving relationship in ways that, like, I don't think she quite understood, and, like, I'm not sure looking back on it that I understand. But when I started, like, you know, spending a lot of time with Kelsey, who is now my wife, and was trying to explain that to this other girl, and, like, that was, and same thing, like, we would have that kind of, like, we cuddled all the time, and you'd, like, very, like, physically close relationship, and her response to me telling her that I had feelings for Kelsey was, like, why are you replacing me? And I was like, wait, like,
so
and, like, she legitimately said
now.
that out loud. No, but she was straight and is straight now. But that was still her response to it in a way that I was like, I didn't know what to say then. I still don't kind of know what to say now, because what's funny is I was like, I was actually still dating someone. It was not her, you know? And it's like,
you're
if
like,
I was
actually replacing my ex-girlfriend.
If I was replacing anyone, like, it was just, what, like, where does this fit? Like,
That
wait
is
a
so
minute.
funny.
Now, I was like, now I'm confused. Like, what's happening? But I think it was one of those things where it was like, I was being her boyfriend in a lot of ways, you know, where, like, when she needed physical interaction, when she needed, like, that sort of, like, emotional buildup that I think, like, you kind of tend to provide for your friends in some ways as queer women. Like, I think that's what she was getting out of it, but it was like the whole thing was still very strange, because I was just like, wait a minute, like, I am dating someone who, like, that is its own whole thing of, like, where that's going and what's happening with that, as I'm realizing that I, like, have feelings for someone else, and, like, the person I'm replacing is not you. Like, what?
I feel like that's such a thing with straight friendships once you're out, though, that I feel like there's a protectiveness there in a new way of like, oh, but like I want you to be available for like if I ever want to try it. Like, you know? Like when you get really close to a straight girl and they're like, you'd be the one I'd try it with, and you're like, I'm not even that into you.
Yeah.
Yes, they're like, if it was anyone, it'd be you.
Or like they'll be really touchy with you, and you're like, I don't want to do this with you because now this is something I reserve for relationships. I mean, like, to an extent, I'll still do it with my friends until like it starts getting intense, and then I'm like, I know what this is. Like, let's not do this. Yeah.
Well, and I wonder if what was different for me was that like there wasn't that sort of you know, like I feel like a lot of this, the pre-gay friend relationship thing, I think the underlying thing is you're attracted to that person, right?
Yes.
Like whether you're acting on it or aware of it or like honest with yourself about it or not. I didn't have that in this relationship with her. Like I think to me, like we were really good friends and like we were really good friends who cuddled a lot, but like there wasn't that attraction on my side. And so I think that's why it like totally took me by surprise. And for a long time, like I did try to decide, like, do I think that she was sort of toying with like, am I open to this?
Yeah.
Would I be into this or not? I still don't know. I mean, she's never had any relationships with women that I know of at all. So I don't know. But I wonder if there was like that kind of like thinking about it, and like there was definitely like the jealousy side of like something on her side, you know.
This is not even trying to be like straight girls like attention, but it is about attention. Like everyone likes attention.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's like then like you were giving them all this attention and now you're not. Like no matter who you are, like you feel that like lack of attention after you had it like so much, and we give so much attention. Like it's like you literally are like reserved for one human being, and like everything you ever have is like going there. Yeah. So then when you go to the next, it's like you don't have like enough to split.
Yeah. But you know, it's funny now that we're talking about it, because it's funny because this isn't something I'd thought about before this, so this a little bit feels like therapy. But I am realizing that like the more intense ones where I was touchier and like more physical was like the ones I was attracted to, and the ones that were shorter, not as intense, especially because everyone ended up being queer. Like I was their pre-gay relationship, but like they weren't necessarily mine, and that's where the rift was. Like I remember that feeling so clearly, and like feeling that weird resentment of like, I'm not for you to figure this out with. Like yeah. And I have some straight friends now who I'm like 99% sure aren't straight, and I can tell they want that like pre-gay relationship with me, but I'm like, look, I'm out. Like I figured it out. You gotta figure this out. I'm done with these. Like I'm not gonna be that for you just so you can try it, you know?
Yeah, makes sense. They need to find another pre-gay.
I had to kind of distance myself from someone I had been like getting pretty close to, because I realized that was what they were doing, because they kept going to parties I was at and getting drunk and hooking up with girls and like getting really intense about it and like hooking up with like my friends and stuff at things. And after a while I had to be like, we're not close anymore. Yeah.
Is it bad, Ellie, if I desperately just want to end this with like a pre-gay friend relationships? Should have been gay.
No, because you're right. It's true. Pre-gay relationships should have been gay.
Yeah, that's great.
Gay.
But they weren't.
Oh, but they should have been.
Yeah. This is going to be an episode that so many people relate to.
Like I didn't even realize how much I related to it till we were talking about it. It was a funny thing. Like when I was thinking about it before this, I was like, I don't even really think, like, I guess I did have a lot of really intense relationships with girls, but, like, I wasn't even really, and now I'm like, oh my God. Because as you say things, I relate to it, and I'm like, oh, that's what that is.
Yep.
This is literally why Ellie and I started a podcast, is because we would do this all the time. We would like get into these conversations, and then like an hour later we'd be like, oh my god, I didn't even know. Yeah. And we still do that. It's like the most accurate thing. Like we're
like, maybe this topic would be good. And
even then we do that all the time, where it's like, well, I guess we could talk about this. That sounds like a thing. And then you get into it and we're like, okay, an hour and a half later, I have a lot of feelings about this.
Yeah, I feel like I'm gonna like, it's especially been funny because like going to Klexicon and stuff for the first time and like being a part of this like identity in this like group is like really great, and it's also the first time I've had a boyfriend, so I'm like going to him being like, whoa, I hadn't thought about this or tried this or this, and he's like, okay. He's like, he can't do much for you about it.
I mean, having a boyfriend does not make you not queer, and it is being in a space with just like that many queer people is...
I mean, it was great.
Yeah. A whole experience. Like, Ellie and I, we went to get dinner one night, and we walked over to Shake Shack.
Yeah.
I wanted to go to Shake Shack.
We walked over to Shake Shack, and you walk in, and you're just like, what is happening? Why are there so many straight dudes around? And like, where am I?
Yeah, I was so disoriented.
Yeah. It's like a trip. It's so different to all of a sudden just not be surrounded by like all queer people all the time.
Yeah. No, coming back to LA was weird, and like seeing my boyfriend after was weird. But I mean, like, he's great, and I love him, and he's the best. But it is like, it is so funny, like dealing with these two identities that like coexist somehow.
Yeah. It's a thing.
Yeah, that's not the topic of this, though.
But it's okay. We can still talk about it.
Cool.
And we get it. We get it.
And we're going to delve into that in our next therapy session.
Cool.
Yeah, right? I
know. I'll pay you guys hourly to just come on this podcast.
Perfect.
Excellent. Yes. Fantastic.
I'm so down.
So we have to ask before we wrap up, because we know you've been doing some readings leading into the next season of Runaways. So, no spoilers, but what can we look forward to this next season?
I think there's going to be a lot more to see of Gert's powers. I think that has been pretty unexplored up until now. What can I say without spoilers? I think we're diving into the world. I think we're diving into the world of the superheroes and stuff in a cool way this year. Yeah, very like cool. World building is happening, and we're learning the lore, and yes.
Cool. And Gert might come out. Who knows?
Oh, in my dreams.
Yeah. Let's make a petition.
I don't know how much identity exploration can happen when you're trapped with your father.
Yeah.
So
maybe
might
not
take a minute, but just with that season 2 cliffhanger, I can't imagine it happens quickly. If it
a girl can dream, Ariela. A girl can dream.
A girl can't dream. I've been saying it in every interview. Like Victoria Mancha instead of Victor Mancha, played by Isabella Gomez.
Oh my god.
Yes. That's speaking of your fave and ours, Isabella.
Yeah.
You recently had your is it your actual like first directorial debut?
That was my first
with Isabella in the short film?
Yup.
Tell us a little bit about that.
How do I even explain it? It's cool that I don't have to worry about spoilers because it's a short film. But it's like kind of about like the premise is like there's a cult of teenage girls at a school, and they are like inducting their newest member, the lead girl Edith. But it's like kind of a metaphor for my experiences and a lot of like, I don't know, for lack of better words, like quote unquote like female spaces, and like the way that intensity can be, like especially like feminist spaces that are like very rich, white, powerful ladies, and like the way capitalism has kind of like warped it and sold it back to us in like a freaky way. I wrote it when I was 17, and then like,
wow.
Well, it wasn't what it was now. It was like just kind of about a cult in a high school, and it went through like a million different revisions, and then it wasn't until like early 2018 I had a couple experiences in like activist feminist spaces where it felt totally disingenuous and like really terrible and blah blah blah, and then I realized that was what I wanted the short to be about. Cool. So it was fun, and I cast everyone kind of against type on purpose. So Isabella's gonna play a very unlikable character.
Oh no!
Yeah, sorry.
No, it's
But
okay.
also it was like, because her character's like, you know, unlikable in this kind of setting is going to be like a bit of a problematic person, which is why I kind of wanted someone like Isabella who's like very aware and like not actually going to be shitty on set, you know?
Yeah. When is this coming out? Like, how can people see it?
I mean, we're submitting to festivals and stuff, so that's the ideal. Like, whatever festival it gets into, I will definitely be announcing. Yeah, we're just kind of starting the editing process. But it's going to be cool. It's kind of scary to put something like this out into the world because, like, I go into it with good intentions, but it's also like, you know, we're critiquing mainstream culture in a way, and that can be interpreted a million different ways. And that's something we just kind of have to do.
Very cool. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm excited. Yeah, lots of feelings.
Is it timely?
Oh, I think it might be time.
All right.
It's time if you're ready, Ariela.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, our last segment, it's one of our faves. It's called Q and Gay.
Q and gay.
And we have some simple multiple choice or yes or no questions that we will ask you. Most of them I think we've probably already covered, but then we also put them up on our Twitter and our listeners can answer. Question 1, have you ever had a friendship that felt like a relationship? Yes or no?
Yes.
2, did people say that you were gay before you came out? Yes or no?
Yes. Yes.
Same. It's okay.
Number 3, who was your celebrity girl crush? And of course, we had to pick from some options since you couldn't remember yours.
Yeah.
So we have Keira Knightley, Kate Winslet, or Minnie Driver.
I can't say any of them. Maybe Kate
none of the
Winslet of
above.
the 3 if I had to pick one.
All right.
Okay.
Wait, now I really want to remember. I'll keep racking my brain as we do.
Yes, you'll figure it out. Okay,
Yeah.
Number 4. Was your pre-gay relationship more physical or more emotional?
The latter. Yeah, I don't know. It's multiple choice or
Both.
like okay,
All of
cool.
the above.
All of the above.
Yeah.
And the last one, I'm very excited to hear what our listeners have to say about this. But for the official Q and Gay answer, Ariela, did you have a gay girl gang?
Yes.
Yes.
I love it so much. I also just love like how much more aware like high schoolers are these days than like
Yeah.
These days, Lee.
I think I was way cooler as a high schooler
these
than I am right
whippersnappers
now.
with their sexualities.
Yeah, my friend group in high school was so incredibly cool at a certain point, like when we identified as that. It was awesome.
Where can our listeners find you online, Ariela?
I think I'm at Ariela Brer on everything.
Perfect.
Yeah. Marvel like changed it for us when the show came out. They really did. That I got an email being like, "Do you want us to change your social media handles?" And before I answered yes, it was changed.
That's
Wow.
crazy.
That's insane.
They were like, "It has to be your name."
So you can find Ariela, you can find her on next season of Runaways, you'll find whenever we hear more about Jelly,
Yes.
right? And you'll be doing an Instagram story takeover this week, so keep an eye out for details on that. Thank you so much for
Thanks
joining
so much,
us. This
guys.
was amazing.
Yeah, it was really fun.
Let me hear you say hip, 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 well, yeah.
We love building this community. We love hearing from all of you. And so we just like to take an opportunity every episode to shout out some of our favorite things lately.
And one of my favorite things, we get a lot of Instagram messages, and I love hearing from all of you. So please keep sending them. I want to shout out Super Sappho. Number 1 shout out. Amazing Instagram handle.
Love it.
Love it so much. And I told them that, but they specifically reached out on Instagram to ask if we've seen Gentleman Jack. Wanted to let you know, I have seen Gentleman Jack. Have you seen Gentleman Jack yet, Lee?
It's all recorded. I'm getting there.
Good. It's so great. And we are on it. Do not worry. We are gobbling up that gay content.
And speaking of gay content, you know that we love our queer podcasts so much. And we want to shout out a new one that I have just started listening to. It is called The Gaily Prophet. I love it. They're doing a gay recap of the Harry Potter books. It's fantastic. They do it in the style of a newspaper, which, you know, as the Daily Prophet is. So it's kind of great. They just have, you know, they'll do different newspaper sections, like the headlines for they do it. I think it's a chapter at a time. It's great if you know, are into like queer things and Harry Potter, which, I mean, maybe one or two of you are.
Yeah, we know a lot of you are into it. That was one of our most popular episodes to date. All of you gay Harry Potter fans, we love you.
Amazing. So yeah, I would check them out. Daily Prophets. It's worth a try. You know, it was fun. It's a good time. So there you go. More queer content, more queer podcasts. We're all about it.
Yes. And of course, we have to thank our top tier Lesbian Jesus patrons, Amy and Ellen,
Kayla Kelly,
Lizette Stye,
Tanya Ferguson,
Jess Klaus,
Danny Griswold,
Michelle Ray Thomas,
Sarah and Julia,
Nicole Gross,
Carrie Ann Lawrence,
and Mark Foster. Thank you all so much. We could not do this without you.
I can't believe how long that list gets every time we read it. It's amazing.
It
You're
is
all
amazing.
You're great.
Amazing.
We love you. Remember, you can find us on all the social medias on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Let's Hang Out Pod.
Or you can email us at letshangoutpod@gmail.com.
Or check out our website at letshangoutpod.com.
And make sure you subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to your podcast so you'll be the first to know when we get new episodes.
We are also posting new videos on our YouTube channel every other Thursday, so make sure that you subscribe at youtube.com/letshangoutpod.
And if you want to support the podcast, a completely free way to do that is to rate and review us on iTunes. It helps other people find the podcast, and we love reading what you have to say.
If you want to join our Patreon family, you can get all sorts of cool perks. You can join our Facebook group. We have different chats going. You can get ad-free episodes. You get merch discount codes. You get so many cool things I can't even remember them all. And you get our eternal undying love and gratitude. So just saying, you could do that at bit.ly/lespatreon.
That was beautiful, Lee.
You're
I think
welcome.
I want to become a patron now.
I think you should.
Amazing.
Why don't you support us?
I know. What have I been doing this whole time? If you want some of our merch, you can get that at bit.ly/lesshop. Pride is upon us. We are so excited. Next week is officially Pride Month, and you know you need to rock some Les Hangout gear at whatever Pride parade you attend, or even if you're just enjoying Pride from the comfort of your own living room. And you can do that at bit.ly/lesshop.
We are also collecting donations for the Trevor Project. You can donate to that at bit.ly/lestrevor.
If you want to find us individually, you can follow me at Ellie Brigida on Instagram and Twitter.
And you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at LSH Foster.
And with that, I'm Ellie.
And I'm Lee.
And let's hang out again soon.
Let's hang out.
Are you building a revenue-generating startup? Come check out Inflection Con 2, the conference for profit-driven entrepreneurs, on June 13th and 14th in New York. The event features a $100,000 startup contest, talks by top entrepreneurs like Michelle Romano, Danielle Morrill, and Sahil Lavingia, as well as workshops on marketing, financial models, communication, and more that help you get tactical on growing your business. Check out inflectioncommunity.com/conference to register today.